in the process of cooking, again I think about 20 minutes seems to be about right, the mixture will cook down, so you'll lose a lot of the liquid. And by this point it's cooked back down to about the point it looked when I added half a cup. So adding the extra half a cup, so a total of 1 cup, is actually a good move. This looks like it's pulpy and juicy and ready to cool down and then mix with the rice flour. So you remove that from the heat. You can leave the burner on and actually turn it up to high because you want to start getting the water steaming for the next phase. Get a lid, cover it up, and you can see when it starts steaming, you'll be ready to go there. But you do need to let this cool down before you start adding the flour. I'm also going to add a dash of egg beaters, which will help add to the cakiness of it. Turnip cakes do not need eggs added, they just have the rice flour. So we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of egg, not a whole lot. We're going to add in half a cup of rice flour first. See how that looks. I'm thinking I might want to go with a full cup, but I don't want to. You can always add more. You never want to add too much to start with. So the rice flour is also white looking. It's a little bit thicker. I would love to try this with a soy flour. See how that tastes. Soy flour has a little bit more of almost like a potato kind of taste, so if you want to make potato cakes, soy flour might be the way to go there. And once it's cooled down sufficiently, you're going to add your flour in. And you can start off mixing it with your spatula, but you'll eventually want to get your hands in there. So with your cooked mixture in your bowl, you're going to add about a cup of rice flour. And you can add it half at a time, and you're just going to work it in with your hand, make sure it's obviously cooled off enough where it's not going to be too hot and scald your fingers. Because it is kind of pasty, and once you get your fingers in there, getting it off is kind of hard. We've already got half a cup in here, add another half cup. Just kind of work it in. It's a dough at this point. Smells good. And you can put this directly into your little things. Again, like I said, because I've got the flimsy, plasticky, latexy thing, you're probably only going to put 2 of these in at a time. And I'm going to try to put an even amount of batter into each one of these things. When I made the turnip cakes, there was significantly more batter. And I ended up almost completely filling each one. And that resulted in a turnip cake that was entirely too thick, so I ended up actually taking them out, letting them cool down, and slicing them in half before I fried them, because you want to get it nice and cooked all the way through. You don't want a really thick cake in this case. Now, when you're working the batter dough, you'll probably notice that it has a little bit of a gritty feel. That's because the rice flour hasn't cooked in yet. That's what the steaming is for. So, when you're adding it to your steamer, first you want to be careful and make sure that you have a good amount of water in the bottom, because it's going to need to steam for about 30 minutes. Carefully load them in a balanced fashion so you don't end up tipping it over. Set it at about medium heat. That's enough for it to boil, but not get too hot. And let's do it for 30 minutes. So be sure not to let the water inside run out. That can be very dangerous with this kind of plastic thing. And you'll carefully take your steam dishes out. And unfortunately I don't have enough room in the kitchen to do the steaming and the frying at the same time, so I'm going to have to do each individually. You want to go ahead and steam them as quickly as you can. You don't want to let them sit for too long. So you'll know that the cake is done good and steamed when it has kind of a squishy consistency, almost a little bit looser than a gummy bear. And what you'll do is you'll get a little spatula once these have cooled down sufficiently, and you'll kind of go in and scrape around. And once you have separated the sides and kind of gone up underneath the cake, it should fairly easily and without too much mess and too much breaking come out all as one piece. Get right up underneath there, and voila, that's great. So you see it's kind of a little bit spongy, a little bit cakey. This actually sticks together a little bit better than the turnip cakes did. Wait for these other two to finish, and we'll get started frying. So now for the magic moment. If the cakes are too thick, you'll want to cut them. So here you have a cake that is somewhere between 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick. That's a little bit too thick. Fortunately, these are turning out thick enough where slicing them in half is not too difficult. This is about the thickness that you want. It's about the thickness of your finger. And so if you're really careful, it shouldn't be a problem. You can just take the cake that is too thick and just kind of slice around carefully, not to cut yourself. But pressing the cake up against the surface is obviously going to cause it to deform. That's really kind of up to you. This is a kind of, I got this from like a dim sum recipe, and obviously the point of dim sum is to have good presentation, but fuck presentation, I care about something that tastes good. And so this is reasonably okay. You know, it's falling apart a little bit. Yeah. So we can patch that back together. So I'm going to get the grilling surface up to about 250 degrees. If you're doing it on a frying pan, then I would say you probably want to do about medium heat. Again, get some more of the olive oil. This one's completely falling apart right here. But that's okay. Actually, I'll take a little dab of this piece right here, throw in there, and maybe it'll come back together. And I'm going to save these for later because there's no way I'm going to eat all of these cakes at once. So these can be refrigerated, maybe frozen. And so you can press these down, but don't press too hard because they'll get stuck to the spatula. But you do want them to be reasonably thin, surface-wise. And they should still have a little bit of malleability to press around. And you can flip them over multiple times. You might have to try it a few times to figure out what level of doneness you like. And again, this is already cooked. This extra grilling is for flavor, and it adds the crisp outer layer. Flipping these will probably be a challenge. Actually, this is complying a little bit better than the turnip cakes did. So now for the moment of truth. Once you get them to about this color, you want to take them off the stove and let them cool off for a few minutes, and then dig in. And for a fun serving suggestion, you might want to try adding some wild rice. Thanks for watching.